American optimists might call it a turning point this afternoon in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it didn't happen on its own because day by day, louder and louder, the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota and the American people at large are demanding accountability from an administration seemingly hell-bent on avoiding it at all costs. Today, 3 days after immigration officers shot and killed Alex Preddy, there is still no evidence, zero, to support the claim that Preddy was there to do any harm or to hurt anyone, that he was ever a threat. In fact, a comprehensive new frame-by-frame analysis conducted by the New York Times of the clearest available video plainly illustrates what many people recognized from the beginning with their own eyes. Federal officers using lethal force against a person, a target who didn't appear to pose any threat. Watch.
In around 5 seconds after fully turning his attention toward Preddy, the agent draws his weapon and shoots. His arm visibly recoils at the first shot. The firearm has clearly been removed from the scrum when the first shots are fired toward Preddy at close range. The officer who disarmed Preddy can be seen reacting to the sound of the first shot, looking back toward the skirmish. The shooter was standing behind Preddy and not under direct threat, contradicting statements from Homeland Security officials that he fired defensive shots. He also has a vantage point to see the gun pulled from the scene, but it's unclear if he did and whether he thought a weapon was still on Preddy. He then fires 3 more shots from behind Preddy, whose arms are down as he appears to brace himself against the pavement.
Despite what the things we can see with our own eyes, and that frame-by-frame analysis makes abundantly clear and lays bare, the Trump administration appears to be initiating what is called a, quote, use of force review. It's happening inside its Customs and Border Protection Office instead of opening a criminal investigation into the shooting. Now, on top of that, 2 people familiar with that decision tell MS Now another DHS unit will look into whether Preddy broke any laws. The Homeland Security Investigations Unit is part of ICE and normally focuses on tracking down human trafficking suspects and narcotics rings and other threats to U.S. national security. But as we said, after days of defending the indefensible, there are some signs, if you kind of squint, this afternoon that the Trump administration might be starting to back off and begin a process of coming to terms with the public outrage it is now up against. For starters, we understand Border Czar Tom Homan is newly overseeing immigration enforcement operations in Minnesota. We understand he met with that state's governor, Governor Tim Walz, and the mayor of Minneapolis, Mayor Jacob Frey, earlier today. In addition, it appears state investigators are finally getting a look at the crime scene. Our colleague Alex Tabbitt witnessed this earlier. A team from Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension examining bullet holes in other areas. But a spokesperson from the state investigators tells MS Now the federal government is still not sharing information on its investigation. Earlier today, Donald Trump took what we will call a relatively measured or defensive tone on this shooting, and that he didn't go right for the lines repeated ad nauseum by his vice president and others in his administration. Watch.
Do you believe that Alex Preddy's death was justified?
Well, you know, we're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself.
It is worth noting, as reporting from our colleagues and from the New York Times suggests, the investigation does not appear to be big or honorable or honest at this point, from what we understand. And on top of that, just moments ago, Donald Trump said this.
Do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist or an assassin?
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun.
Shouldn't have been carrying a gun. Your Second Amendment allies want a word. And this coming from a president who pardoned armed rioters carrying lots and lots of guns, who said that those armed rioters were, quote, his people, according to former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson. All of this follows days of public protests and unrest in cities all across our country. What you're watching is video from Minnesota, but go west until you hit the Pacific Ocean, and this is what you see at UCSF, UC San Francisco, protests, vigils, or go east to the Atlantic Ocean, and likewise, American citizens in Washington, D.C. are voicing their disgust, exercising their First Amendment rights to protest as well. That is where we start today. Former Assistant Special Agent in charge at the FBI and National Security and Intelligence Analyst Michael Feinberg is back with us. He's also a fellow at Lawfare. My friend and colleague, senior political analyst, contributing host on Pod Save America, host of the podcast Runaway Country, Alex Wagner, is here. She is in Minneapolis right now. But I want to start, as we have so many of these days, with our reporter on the ground, Alex Tabbitt. Alex, take me inside what's happening in the big developments today.
Well, Nicole, we are here at the site where Alex Preddy lost his life. Here where statewide investigators came to collect more evidence earlier this morning, take photographs of this scene. This scene is really acting both as an investigation scene for those statewide investigators, but also, of course, as a place of mourning as thousands of people continue to stream to this site to pay their respects to Alex Preddy. And this grieving, this healing process takes many forms. For some creatives, their form of expression, their form of healing is through art. I want you to take a look right over there where a local artist has just painted a portrait of Alex Preddy. And for many other people, this grieving process, this healing process has been through prayer. We've seen leaders from local denominations across the state come here and lead vigils and hold arm in arm with their fellow Minnesotans to help them heal. We've also seen pastors and reverends from out of state come here, including the Democratic senator from Georgia, Raphael Warnock, who was here earlier this morning. I got the opportunity to chat with Senator Warnock. I want you to hear a portion of our conversation.
Well, first of all, I want to say how inspired I am by the people of Minneapolis who are standing up in this moral moment in which the very identity of our country is on the line. Those faith leaders showed up because they believe, as I do, that there's something called the ministry of presence, that sometimes showing up is its own power. And they know that what is happening with immigrant communities concerns all of us. And that clearly was the feeling of Ms. Renee Good and Alex Preddy. They literally put their bodies on the line in the best of the civil rights tradition. I'm pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Dr. King served. And sometimes there's great power in showing up, literally putting your bodies in the struggle. And the people of Minnesota are doing that in a way that I think is standing up not only for Minnesota, but they're standing up for the whole country, because sadly, the Trump-Vance regime intends to take this tragic and destructive show on the road.
And Nicole, viewers can catch the rest of my conversation with Senator Warnock later this evening on All In with Chris Hayes. But it's important to note that while this community continues to grapple with this trauma, and even though the Trump administration has indicated that they will be pulling some federal agents out of the Twin Cities as soon as today, ICE and Border Patrol operations continue right here as those federal agents continue to swarm the Twin Cities during this immigration crackdown. Nicole.
Michael Feinberg, let me bring you in and let me turn your attention back to the frame-by-frame analysis in the New York Times. It's invaluable journalism. The New York Times was out with one of the first sort of photographic stories after the shooting on Saturday, sort of thrusting images that people could reach their own conclusions about. But now that they've got this detailed analysis, it seems to lend itself to your expertise. So just tell me what it means when their reporter goes through frame by frame and shows an agent shooting Alex Preddy from behind.
You know, probably the most important quality for anybody to have if they want to be a responsible member of the law enforcement community is, believe it or not, a sense of emotional maturity. And part of that is not getting carried away by the circumstances in which you find yourself. You have to be able to keep your cool in violent, fast-moving situations where your life or somebody else's life may be at risk. And to see an ICE officer shoot somebody who was legally carrying a weapon and had already been disarmed by the other ICE officers does not speak to me about a well-trained group. This looks more like an execution than a law enforcement operation.